There we go. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back. I hope everybody had a good week. What I would like to do today is to tackle two chapters. Okay? If we can. Two chapters, 31 and 32. Why? Because that's a continuation of what we started before, part of those prophecies on other nations. Now, specifically, the last nation that we're dealing with is Mitzrayim, Egypt. And these two chapters still talking about Egypt, Mitzrayim. The juicy stuff of this book, starts from the next chapter, right? That's from 33 till the end. Things are changing here, and it's going to be like the more juicy stuff. So I would like to end that subunit about those prophecies on Egypt and everything on today, if we can. So 31, 32, we'll try. So today we're starting, so chapter 31, we're going to talk about the tree, the cedar. Okay, and that's a parable for Mitzrayim. This is the fifth prophecy. We said last week that there's 7 of them. And this is the fifth prophecy on Mitzrayim. And it's a parable. And the chapter is divided to 3 sections, 3 units, that we can distinguish between them with that phrase, Ko Amar Adonai. So, thus said Hashem. So we know it's a new paragraph. And each one of them describes yet another stage in the life of that cedar. Okay? So the first one describes the beauty of that cedar, that the king of Mitzrayim, Pharaoh, wanted to be like that tree. I'm going to read the first 9 verses. Okay, Aleph through Tet, 1 through 9, chapter 31. ויהי ב-11 שנה בשלישי באחד לחודש, היה דבר אדוני אלי לאמור, בן אדם, אמור אל פרעה מלך מצרים ולהמונו, אל מי דמית וגודלך, הנה אשור ארז בלבנון, יפה ענף וחורש מצל וגבה קומה, ובין עבותים הייתה צמרתו. מים גידלוהו, תהום רוממת הוא, את נהרותיה הולך סביבות מטעה, ואת עלותיה שלחה אל כל עצי השדה. על כן גבהה קומתו מכל עצי השדה, ותרבנה שרעפותיו, ותארחנה פאורותיו ממים רבים בשלחו. בשעפותיו כיננו כל עוף השמיים, ותחת פאורותיו ילדו כל חיית השדה, ובצילו ישבו כל גויים רבים. ויף בגודלו באורך דליותיו, כי היה שורשו אל מים רבים, ארזים לו עממוהו, בגן אלוהים בראשים לא דמו אל שעפותיו, וערמונים לו היו כפאורותיו. כל עץ בגן אלוהים לא דמה אליו ויופיו, יפה עשיתיו ברוב דליותיו, ויקנאוהו כל עצי עדן אשר בגן האלוהים. Quickly in English, it happened in the 11th year, in the 3rd month, on the 1st of the month, that the word of Hashem came to me, saying, Son of man, say to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his multitude, to whom do you like yourself in your greatness? Behold, Assyria, a cedar in the Lebanon forest with beautiful branches and shady thickness, tall of stature, with its crown among the thick branches. Water nourished it, the depth elevated it, its rivers flowed around its bed, and it sent forth its streams to all the trees of the field. Thus, its height surpassed all the trees of the field. Its bough Both multiplied, and its branches grew long when it sent them forth because of the abundant waters. In its boss, okay, every fowl of the heavens nested, and under its branches every beast of the field gave birth. In its shade dwelt all the many nations. It became beautiful in its greatness, in the length of its tendrils, for its roots were upon abundant waters. Even cedars could not obscure it in God's garden. Cypresses could not compare to its boss, and chestnut trees were nothing like its branches. No tree in God's garden could compare to it in its beauty. I made it so beautiful with its abundant tendrils that it was envied by all the trees of Eden that were in God's garden. Okay. So, a couple of words. I mean, there are a lot of fancy words here. We talked about all those types of branches and poarot. We said it's type of branches. Soapot is also a type of branches. Vayeyif. It's a very unusual word. The Metzudat David said it's yafeh haya. Okay, so from the root of yafeh. Okay. Lo amamuhu. That means, according to Radak, is that other trees did not dim its beauty. Okay, they were not able to cover it. Okay, now, so this prophecy is said about 2 months after the previous prophecy, and about 2 months, roughly, before destruction of Yerushalayim. Right? We're looking at, right? בשתי עשרה שנה, in the 12th year, בשני עשר חודש, באחד לחודש. On Aleph of what? If שני עשר חודש is what? Iyar.
Yeah, because the sun is the first.
Okay. And the main claim, we see it in Pasuk Bet and Pasuk Gimel, is what? That the king of Mitzrayim, Paro, sees himself as great as Ashur, the Assyrian. And the kingdom of Ashur is compared to that cedar tree, the most impressive tree of them all. Now, the rest of the Psukim describe that tree, right? It's so strong, it's so tall, it's so big, it's so impressive. Fine. The branches, they create so much shade, all the birds, all the animals come to, whatever. Okay, fine. And because of that, because of that, it's that the other trees were envy of that tree. Now, if you remember, there's a similarity between this description and what we learned on chapter 28 about the king of Tzol. A lot of the same terminology, a lot of the same thing. Both of them, the idea is that they were very impressive, very beautiful. Nothing was like them. They were both in the Garden of Eden or the Garden of God or whatever that means. And therefore, we understand that we're not surprised that their end was also similar. Okay, then we come to the second part. And the second part, verses 10 to 14, is the fall of that cedar tree. Okay? 10 through 14. לכן, כה אמר אדוני אלוהים, יען אשר גבעת בקומה, וייתן צמרתו אל בין עבותים, ורם לבבו בגובהו, ויתנהו ביד אל גויים, עשו יעשה לו כרשעו גרשתיהו. ויכרתוהו זרים עריצי גויים, ויתשוהו אל ההרים, ובכל גאיות נפלו דליותיו, ותשברנה פאורותיו בכל אפיקי הארץ, וירדו מצילו כל עמי הארץ, ויתשוהו. על מפלתו ישכנו כל עוף השמיים, ואל פאורותיו היו כל חיית השדה. Yeah, one more pasuk. למען אשר לא יגבהו בקומתם כל עצי מים, ולא ייתנו את צמרתם אל בית אבותים, ולא יעמדו אליהם בגובהם כל שותי מים, כי כולם ייתנו למוות אל ארץ תחתית בתוך בני אדם אל יורדי בור. We'll get there. Therefore, thus said Hashem, because you grew haughty in stature, not necessarily in physical stature, character, and put its crown among the thick branches, and its heart became proud of its height, I delivered him into the hand of the strongest of nations, who dealt freely with him, commensurate with his wickedness, and I drove him out. Strangers, the fiercest of the nations, cut it down and abandoned it. Its tendrils fell upon the mountains and in all the valleys, and its branches lay broken in all the channels of the earth, and all the nations of the earth departed from its shade and forsook it. Upon its ruins every bird of heaven rested, and upon its branches was every beast of the field. I did this so that none of all the water-nourished trees should become haughty with their stature, and they should not place their crown among the thick branches, and the elms, as well as all other trees that drink water, should not stand tall in their height, for they are all given over to death into the nethermost earth, in the midst of the children of men, among those who descend to the pit. Okay, so the sin of that cedar tree is similar to the one of the king of Tzol in chapter 28. The great success caused them to be haughty, ga'ava, pride, self-confidence. And of course, if we're talking about this is a parable to King of Egypt, to Paro, we understand that because that's exactly what we learned 2 chapters ago in chapter 29, where Pharaoh says, Ye'or li v'ani asitini. I made it. It's all mine. I created the river. It's all me. So, okay, the obvious is, we're taught, we learn all the time, you have a potential, somebody is, has a certain talent or something or whatever, use it, right? On the contrary, like, if you have physical whatever, go become an actor if you can. You're super tall, go become a basketball player, whatever. You have a nice voice, use it for singing, whatever that is, right? The question is, so it's legitimate, and then that's what you need to do. Use your talents. This is why God gave you those talents. The question is, what do you do with that? It's not only what you do with that actually it's how does it get what kind of a person are you going to be? It is going to make you, right? No, you good. I don't think that's the question.
Like, don't be too haughty.
Don't be too haughty, but this is already the second question, meaning this is what the talent causes you, right? If I have a good voice, right, and I study and I learn technique and I learn how to sing and I use it for good. I use it to sing. I make people happy. That's all good. What kind of person is gonna make you? Is it gonna make you a Bal Gava, a haughty person, somebody with, a prima donna, somebody who's looked down on people because of that talent? Well, that's exactly what happened to the cedar tree. That's exactly that's kind of the balance, and that's the fear that we have. When somebody's talented, you want to nourish that. God was the one that enabled that cedar tree to grow to such size and become so impressive and all that kind of stuff. But then what? Does he realize that if he realizes that, we're talking here about the tree, but the point is that the tree is a parable to Pharaoh, right? So we're talking about people at the end of the day here. Do people understand that this is all from God? Then I'm a vessel for that, what's supposed to happen.
I have a comment.
Just a sec.
Yes.
So it's a very, and I can tell you from personal experience, it's a very delicate balance. Like, it's that people who are, especially in my field, like, people who are talented, like whatever they have gifts, music or whatever, or people who are, I don't know, athletic, or people that have all whatever talent that is, you need that constant reminder. It's not about me. It's not about me. This is, God gave me this gift, and I'm judged in what I'm going to do with that gift. To have that gift and just like as a self-service for this self whatever,
So that's the downfall.
that's the downfall of that cedar. Yes.
Interesting that he used the word Atzei Eden, Eretz Tartit.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about this. Yeah.
Kind of disturbing.
Well, we're going to talk about that also. That you'll see it. It's going to come. Eden is obviously because that's the utopia, so to say, right? That's But we're going to get into that in a second. Couple of things.
But this sense of organic thought with a lesson in this.
Yeah.
Sort of the punishment, because if they can draw out the sentence, Al Ithalel forget to Pater, you cannot.
It's not exactly. That's is don't brag about your. Don't be overconfident. That's what it means. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. But I think the message here that the fall of that tree is supposed to teach us something very, very clear. There's no room for such behavior. There's no room for this haughtiness among any creatures. Correct. Everybody is we're all going to end up at the same place at the end. We're all going to die. Take things in perspective. And if you have blessings, it's from God. So acknowledge that, be thankful, use it for the good. Okay. Now I said all the time that that cedar tree is a parable for Pharaoh. It says, Hine Ashur Eretz Balbanon, right? It's Assyria. So it means that, we'll get there. So the pshat, the simple reading is that who is that cedar tree is actually Ashur, the Assyrians. And this is this is the view of most of the commentaries, and that makes sense because what? Because Ashur fell about 25 years prior to that prophecy, so it all makes sense. So that means that we have a parable within a parable. because Mitzrayim is compared to Ashur, and Ashur is compared to that cedar tree. Okay, so that's one approach. And if that's the case, so what does it mean? It means that it's a warning for Mitzrayim. Look what happened 25 years ago to Ashur. Be careful. It'll happen to you as well. Fine. However, there's another interpretation. Ashur is not mentioned again throughout the chapter, not even once. And therefore, some suggested that Ashur is not really the nation, Ashur, i.e., the Syrian. No, is a name of a tree. Like we have, for example, Te'ashur. Te'ashur is Asherais come from that because that was made out of wood, right? So here it's, according to that reading, it's not a double parable, but rather it's Mitzrayim that is compared to a tree. That's it. Either way, it really makes no difference. Mitzrayim is presented as haughty, as you know, and therefore it's going to fall. Now, this is all the first stage. Now it's the last part of that prophecy. It's the continuation. What's going to happen to that cedar tree? How it's going to continue to fall. Okay? And looking at verses 15 through 18. Okay? 15 through 18. ואמר אדוני אלוהים, ביום רידתו שאולה, here we go, that term. העבלתי כיסיתי עליו את תהום, ואמנע נהרותיה ויקלעו מים רבים, ואקדיר עליו לבנון וכל עצי השדה עליו עולפה. מכל מפלתו הרעשתי גויים בהורידי אותו שאולה את יורדי בור, וינחמו בארץ תחתית כל עצי עדן, מבחר וטוב לבנון כל שותי מים. גם הם איתו ירדו שאולה אל חללי חרב וזרועו ישבו בצילו בתוך גויים. אל מי דמית ככה בכבוד ובגודל בעצי עדן, והורדתה את עצי עדן אל ארץ תחתית בתוך ערלים, תשכב את חללי חרב, הוא פרעה וכל המונו, נאום אדוני אלוהים. Thus said Hashem, on the day he descended on the grave, I caused mourning. I constrained the depth because of him and withheld its rivers, and the abundant waters ceased. I darkened Lebanon because of him, and all the trees of the field grew faint because of him. I made the nations tremble at the sound of his fall when I brought him down to the grave with those who descended to the pit. Then all the trees of Eden were comforted in the nethermost earth, the choicest and best of the Lebanon, all those that drink water. They too descended with it to the grave, to those slain by the sword, along with his supporters who had dwelled in his protection among the nations. To whom did you thus liken yourself in glory and seize among Eden's trees? Now you will be brought down with Eden's trees into the nethermost earth. You will lay among the uncircumcised with the slain of the sword. This is Pharaoh and all his multitude, the sword of the Lord Hashem. Look at the verse 15. כאמר אדוני אלוהים, ביום רידתו שאולה העבלתי. העבלתי, Evel, right? So that means it's like the Sheol, the depths are in mourning. Okay. Another word here interesting is the next pasuk, ulpe. וכל עצי השדה עליו עולפה. עולפה is from the שורש עלף, להתעלף, to faint. Okay, so because of that dryness, the rest of the trees also kind of fainted. Okay. What is that Sheol, those depths? What is this? It's where the dead are. Right? Yeah, basically.
No,
Bet Kvarot is cemetery is like where the bodies, the physical bodies. I think that the Sheol is their where there's I don't know their soul, whatever that means. No, Gehenom is a different thing. Okay, and that's in the depth of the earth, whatever that means. This is where the phrase "Laredet Sheola" comes from. Right. Yaakov says to his children, "Ki ered el beni avel sheola." Right? I'm gonna die. What does it mean? I'm gonna go down to the Sheol, to the depths. This is where it comes from.
But it's interesting because the Shoresh is Shin Aleph Lamed.
Yeah,
So it's also Sha'al.
correct.
So how does it work, those two together?
And you remember one of the curses or one of the big no in the Torah is lish'ol el hametim.
Oh my God.
Right? It's like all the sorts of like right, all sorts of like yidonim or whatever, all that kind of stuff. It's all sorts of like basically form of whatever you want to call it, voodoo, avodah zarah, whatever, all that kind of stuff is to science, whatever they call it, science, whatever, all that kind of try to communicate with the dead, right? Lish'ol el hamitim. That's one of the big no-nos, right? So it comes. King Shaul does that,
Yeah.
right? Correct. Yeah, before his last battle, he goes into the right. Anyway, so God dried all the water sources that contribute to that tree, and so everything got dry, and that tree plus the trees around him, they're all gonna die. Okay, that's basically it. Now, when that tree is going to go down to the depths of the earth, so the dead that are already there, they're going to see that symbol, that tree that is such a symbol going down, and that's going to make them feel a little bit better. Why? Because if he is down, okay, you feel a little bit better.
We're in good company.
Okay. All the trees that were envy at him. And it's by the way, it all reminds us, it's a kind of a deja vu to what Yeshayahu was prophesying about the king of the king of Bavel. That is also, there's a whole description of him going down as well, and that's going to create a whole big commotion. It's the same, it's a very, very similar idea. Okay, that's the end of that chapter. I want to run quickly, go into to chapter 32. This is the sixth prophecy on Mitzrayim, and it started with like kind of exposition. Okay, first two psukim. ויהי בשתי עשרה שנה, בשנים עשר חודש, באחד לחודש, היה דבר אדוני אלי לאמור. בן אדם, שא קינה על פרעה מלך מצרים, ואמרת אליו, כפיר גויים נדמת, ואתה קטנים בימים, ותגח בנהרותיך, ותדלך מים ברגליך, ותרפוס נהרותם. It happened in the 12th year, in the 12th month of the first of the month, the word of Hashem came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lament for Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and say to him, you imagined yourself a young lion among the nations, but you are like a serpent in the seas. And we actually said a couple of chapters ago, we actually said it's actually what we call today a crocodile. you emerged with your rivers and you charred waters with your feet and all their rivers. Okay, now think about it. The 12th year, okay, again, Bishnei Asar Chodesh Be'echad LaChodesh. 12th month on the first of the month. That means what? About 8 months after destruction of Yerushalayim. Okay, this is one of the first prophecies that we see already after destruction of Yerushalayim. Now, it would ask me, how that's possible? I get it that he doesn't talk about Yerushalayim and all that kind of stuff when the destruction of Yerushalayim had not yet taken place. This is after. How that's possible? He's not mentioning anything. Well, he's not mentioning because there's nothing to do with us. There's nothing to do with Yerushalayim. He's talking about Egypt. Okay, and that's what I said, that unit of prophecies, they're kind of grouped together based on geographic. It's, some of them, like they were not, those prophecies are not from the same time period. Some before destruction of Yerushalayim, some after. This is obviously the latest. But we started in the north, going all the way to the south. So it was a geographical order rather than, chronological order. And therefore, we understand why we have a prophecy here that is already taking place after destruction in Yerushalayim. Nothing to do with Yerushalayim.
But the prophecy is very...
Well, we get there. The prophecy itself is terrible. Correct. So, Vatakatanim bayamim vatagach. Tagach is from the root nagach. Like, correct. Vatidlach. Right? It's like when we say maim dluchim. It's maim that are achurim, that are kind of like dirty. Okay. Okay. By the way, also vatirpos. Vatidlach maim beraglecha vatirpos. It's also from the word refesh.
Oh, litrapes.
Litrapes is a modern. It's based on that. Okay, what's litrapes? To lower yourself, but like really, why? Because you're like refesh. What's refesh? No, refesh is dirt. Right, zeb, right. Okay. So the water here are super dirty. They're full of garbage. Okay. Okay. Fine. So this prophecy, we'll get there in a sec. This prophecy is, he tells from the very beginning, it's a kina, it's a lament. But it's different than the kina, the lament that we had in chapters 26, 27, 28. It's not said in the past tense, like the previous ones, but rather actually the future tense, this one. And it's still called lament. Pretty amazing, right? It's like, you don't lament something that didn't take place. And yet, the lament is usual. But here it's in the future tense, kind of like he wants to make a point. Okay, it's a prophecy, good. It's more than that. He's trying to say,
Warning.
No, it's not a more warning anymore. It's a done deal. It's a done deal. Yes. It's like when you tell somebody, I'm going to do ABC, but you're going to say it in a way, you're going to describe it in a way that it's like it's already done. There's nothing that can be done to undo it.
Yeah, because he's telling this is what you are doing.
Correct. Correct.
That-
Correct. So it's going to make it even stronger, to make it as a fact, even though it didn't happen yet. Okay. Now, here's the basis of the claim. Paro sees himself as a kfir goyim, as a lion, cub, as a lion. Means he's a king that rules over other nations. But what does he say? He said that actually, but you're not a lion, you're a crocodile. First of all, we already saw that in chapter 29. So that's number one. But what's the difference? The difference is that the lion can go from one place to other, and he's still the ruler. He's still the king of the animals. Right? However, crocodile cannot do that. The crocodile needs the water. And it's not only that. Wherever he is, like in the water, he makes the water dirty. He makes the water dirty. So the meaning of that is that Pharaoh has the power of a crocodile, but that's what's going to get him. Because he is limited to the water, it's going to be easier to catch him.
But
Okay.
he knows how the tricks how to evade.
I get it. I get it. Let's take a look at the fall of that crocodile. I'm going to look at verses 3 through 10. כה אמר אדוני אלוהים, ופרסתי עליך את רשתי בקהל עמים רבים והעלוך בחרמי, ונטשתיך בארץ על פני השדה עטילך, והשכנתי עליך כל עוף השמיים, והשבעתי ממך חיית כל הארץ, ונתתי את בשרך להרים ומילאתי הגאיות רמותיך, והשקתי ארץ שפתך מדמך אל ההרים, ואפיקים ימלאון ממך, וכיסיתי בכבודך שמיים והגדרתי את כוכביהם, שמש בענן נחסנו וירח לא יאיר אורו, כל מאורי אור בשמיים אקדירם עליך, ונתתי חושך על ארצך נאום אדוני אלוהים, ויחסתי לב עמים רבים באבי איש שברך בגויים על ארצות אשר לא ידעתם, והאשימותי עליך עמים רבים ומלכיהם יסערו עליך שער וסער, מעופפי חרבי על פניהם וחרדו לרגעים איש לנפשו ביום מפלתך. For him, from his perspective, absolutely. You imagine yourself a young lion among the nations, but you are like a serpent in the seas. You emerge with your rivers and you turned water. Oh, thus said Hashem, I'm sorry, Pasuk Gimel 3. Thus said Hashem, I will spread my net over you with an assemblage of many nations, and they will lift you in my web. I will leave you abandoned upon the earth. I will hurl you upon the open field. I will cause all the fowl of the heavens to settle upon you, and I will sate every beast of the land with you. I will place your flesh upon the mountains and fill the valleys with your decay. The land where you swam, I will swam. Okay. The land where you swam, I will inundate. Wow, the English is even harder than Hebrew. With your blood until the mountains and the channels will be filled from you. With the smoke of your extinguishment, I will cover the heavens, and I will darken their stars. I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon will not radiate its light. I will darken all the bright light of heaven because of you, and I will place darkness upon your land, the word of the Hashem. Then I will vex the heart of many people when I announce your destruction among the nations, so lands that you never knew. I will cause many peoples to this astonished by you, to be astonished by you, and their kings will shake with trembling concerning you when I brandish my sword in their presence, and each man will quake constantly on the day of your downfall.
I think that he made himself God. The prophet made himself God. He doesn't say the words of God, but he put a God like he's God.
Correct. That's
that he
his sin.
said
That's
is
his
so
sin. That's
much.
exactly the whole point.
Yeah.
And we said it,
It's so much.
and we said it many times, that all that unit of from chapter 28 all the way to here, all those prophecies about the different nations, the reason for that is what? V'yaduki ani Adonai. Why? Because there's going to be a fear that after destruction of the temple, after destruction of the temple, the other nations are going to say, you see, that God, he's not a real God. His own house was destroyed. In order to prevent that, all those prophecies are said, saying, no. I can do whatever I want, including destroying my own house. That's between me and the Jewish people. However, you guys are going to be punished for all that lack of belief in me. Okay? Now,
Can I ask a question? It's
Yeah.
going into very detailed explanation about all the lightnings that we get from this. In the beginning, when God created, it says, Me'orot Hashamayim.
Yeah.
Why is he going into so
Because-
much explanation instead of using just Me'orot Hashamayim? Because this
no, but
includes.
that's part of the technique, like, make it to create a drama.
Oh,
Okay,
what is
So-
the Heavenly?
we'll get there in a second.
It's Classe. Like,
So, couple of words over there. Pasuk hey, ונתתי בשרך להרים ומלאתי גאיות רמותיך. Ramutecha is somehow supposed to describe the corpse of that crocodile. According to Rashi, because it fills of rimot. Ramutecha from the word rimot, like i.e.
wait,
No, rimot are worms.
Rima v'todah.
Correct. A different approach says that that the body of the corpse of that crocodile is going to be thrown like Rama vayam. So Ramutecha comes from Rama. That's
Sus v'achor Rama vayam.
correct. So it's like, drowning. Okay. Either way. The next pasuk, V'ishketi eretz tzafatcha. That's the only time we see that word in the Tanakh. Tzafatcha. Not that easy. Rashi says from the word tzaf, right? To float, right? To float, so that it's a land where you float in the water, which makes sense. Radak has a different explanation. He says Eretz HaMishor, it's the flat land. So what is floating? It's the water from the Nile that float. And if you remember, already in the time of Yosef, that was the big thing with the Nile. What they were doing is creating water aqueducts from the Nile to give water to the fields. What? Correct. So, okay, we have three kind of sections here. In the beginning, we have this description of killing that crocodile, and throwing the corpse of the crocodile and the animals that eat that corpse. And, the blood is like spilling, whatever. Okay. Then we have a second stage that the fall has to do with the celestial, with the heavens, with the sun, the moon, the star, the stars that they're not going to give their light. Right? And by the way, there's a lot of use of the word choshech, choshech, right, to cover, that creates darkness. By the way, deja vu to what? No. Darkness, thank you. Makat choshech. Not only that, the choshech we have also in a different makah in Mitzrayim is also the arbe. When the arbe comes, yechezkel haaretz. So there's like all this stuff of kisui, of covering, that something is covered, and then we have choshech, and we're talking about Mitzrayim, so it all makes sense that he makes all those connections. Okay, and then the third stage is the reaction of the other nations to the fall of Mitzrayim, and here what he describes is panic. Basically, the other nations are angry, right? They're furious, but also at the same time they're panicked. Okay, why? Because the fact that such a superpower like Egypt is falling means that no one is immune. No one is immune.
So it's affecting everyone.
It's affecting everybody, but if it could happen, right? It's like if it could happen to them, it could happen to me, it could happen to everybody, right? That's basically the psychology here. And that means what? If God is doing that to Egypt, God can do that to me.
So it's like embarrassing the flesh of him, but my ego is over here.
Okay. Kind of, yes. Now Yechezkel is going to go from the parable to his message. And what is message? We saw it in previous chapters. He's going to tell the Egyptians, you're going to fall by whom? Babylonians. Okay, I'm going to read verses 11 through 15. כי כה אמר אדוני אלוהים, חרב מלך בבל תבואך, וחרבות גיבורים אפיל המוניך, עריצי גויים כולם, ושדדו את גאון מצרים ונשמט כל המונה, ועבדתי את כל בהמתה מעל מים רבים, ולא תדלכם רגל אדם עוד, ופרסות בהמה לא תדלכם. אז אשקיע מימיהם ונערותם כשמן הוליך, נאום אדוני אלוהים, בתיתי את ארץ מצרים שממה ונשמה, ארץ ממלואה, והכותי את כל יושבי בה, וידעו כי אני אדוני. Unlike the parable, here he's not talking only about Pharaoh. It's the entire nation. It's the whole Eretz Mitzrayim. People are going to die. It's going to become desolate. It's going to go empty. No one will be able to dwell there. No animals. And it says that, like, the water of Mitzrayim they were filthy. They were filthy, right? And again, it's the connection to the water that becomes filthy because of the crocodile, which is Pharaoh. And then once the people of Egypt are going to die by the sword of the Babylonians, no one else is going to cause that to the water. No one is going to fill the water anymore. Right? The water was filthy because of Pharaoh, because of his people. No one is going to do that. So all the mud is going to settle. And what's going to happen? And the water is going to be clear.
End of war.
It's kind of like, it's to me, it's like resetting. It's right. Well, what's the how was it created? The river was created so the water is clear. And what happened? There was a kilkul. There was something went wrong. Right? The Egyptians, Pharaoh and the Egyptians, they made it dirty, filthy. So they're punished. So they're out. So if you remove that factor, that which caused the dirtiness, you take it out. With time, eventually, water is going to become clear. So it's basically resetting to where things natural or the way things supposed to be. And by the way, and this is for the purpose, v'yadu ki ani Adonai. Yes.
My question is, they all was their god, the Egyptian god. They
No,
did not
no.
know. They used to worship the all.
No. They worship Pharaoh. They worship Pharaoh.
Pharaoh.
Yeah.
He was God.
As far as I remember.
No. They worship no. They attributed to the all sorts of power, magical powers as well, but it was not a god. The god was Pharaoh.
Pharaoh was the god, but I remember that when he went out to the river,
Yeah.
they all were afraid they would touch. Only he was the one to go into the water.
Yeah, this is a legend. I have no idea. That's a midrash. I have no idea. I don't know where it's based on.
He almost considered them god.
Okay, so this is a lament, and it's so real. Yechezkel, like it's like for Yechezkel, he sees it in his mind. That he says, look at verse 16. Kinahi v'konenuha benot hagoyim tekonena ota al Mitzrayim v'al kol hamona tekonena ota neum Adonai Elohim. It is a lament, and they will lament it. The daughters of the nations will lament it. They will lament it for Egypt and for all her multitude, the word of the Lord Hashem. He knows who's going to do it. And in this shorish of kina, kuf yud nun, is highlighted 4 times here to make sure that we understand that this is done deal. There's no way that there's
No way to get out of it.
yeah, there's no way to get out of it. Okay,
Can I connect this to Cain?
to Cain,
Because he had his oath.
I don't know.
That's
Maybe
why
I don't know.
if there is any connection.
I don't know. Okay, I want to go very quickly to the 7th and the last prophecy on Mitzrayim. So this is the last one. It's a little bit different, and let's take a look at that. So 17 through 21. 17.
What page?
פסוק י"ז.
פסוק י"ז. ויהי ב12 שנה ו15 לחודש. היה דבר אדוני אלי לאמור, בן אדם, נהה על המון מצרים והורידהו, אותה ובנות גויים אדירים אל ארץ תחתיות אל יושבי בור. ממין העם טרדה והושכבה את הערלים, בתוך עללי חרב יפולו חרב ניתנה, משכו אותה בכל המוניה, ידברו לו אלי גיבורים מתוך שאול את עוזריו, ירדו שכבו הערלים חללי חרב. Here Yechezkel is commanded to give a kina element, but here is uses a different word, not kina but nehi, which is also right, like a cry, like lament, on Mitzrayim. And there's one difference between the two. First, just a sec. First, like the previous one was that's okay. The previous one was about the physical fall of Mitzrayim. This is going to be thus going down to the Sheol, to whatever that means. Okay, going down, as we said in the previous chapter. But here, so it's I don't know if you want to call it spiritual, whatever. It's not the physical fall; it's the other one. Okay, now, and this is going to be much more detailed. Even Mitzrayim that doesn't see itself as you know that they deserve that. They deserve the call to them, Mimina Amt. Why do you think that you're going to be different? You're no better than others. And here, what he does, and we're going to do it very quickly, he's going to go to mention other nations who are already there in the Sheol, waiting for Mitzrayim. Okay, I'm gonna read them all quickly. I don't think there's even reason to do that in English. I'm just gonna read verses 22 to 30. שם אשור בכל קהלה סביבותיו קברותיו כולם חללים הנופלים בחרב שם ניתנו קברותיה בירכתי עבור ויהי קהלה סביבות קבורתה כולם חללים נופלים בחרב אשר נתנו חיתית בארץ חיים שם עילם, I'm gonna skip, כבב, שם משך ותובל, שם אדום, שם נסיכי צפון, כל צידוני. So basically Mitzrayim in the Sheol is going to meet all the other nations. Yeah, Ashur, Elam, Tuval, Meshech, Edom, Tzafon, Tzidoni. Elam, who is Elam, by the way? It's the son of Shem. Yeah, it's the older brother of Ashur. Bnei Elam, Ashur, Bnei Elam in the Sefer Bereshit. We learn Bnei Shem, Elam, Ashur, Pachshat, Lud, Aram. Right, these are the different nations. Okay. Meshech Betuval, Yavan, Garma, all those nations that we learned about in Sefer Bereshit. So all the neighboring nations are going to be there. And just to quickly finish that, the destruction of Ashur, as we know, preceded the destruction of Mitzrayim, so that makes sense. So that Mitzrayim is going to meet Ashur already there. Later on, he mentioned Elam. Elam, we already see that prophecy 100 years prior with Yirmiyahu. He talks about that. He talks about it, but it's going to happen later on. It's going to happen later on, about 50, 60 years later. Whatever happens to them, it's going to happen to Mitzrayim. That's pretty much the bottom line here. And this is the last prophecy. This is where we end that unit about Mitzrayim and the other nations, Ashur and Sidon and Tzor and whatever, and all those. That unit started in chapter 25. And again, as I mentioned, the whole purpose of that unit is that after the destruction of Yerushalayim, there was a fear. There was this real fear that it's going to be Chilul Hashem. There's going to be desecration of God's name. How God, the house of God is destroyed. So, therefore, God says, I'm going to deal with the other nations as well. It's nothing to do with what I do with the Jewish people. We have a separate, deal here. I'm going to deal with you guys also. So everybody recognize for all you have done, whether political, spiritual, whatever, all that kind of stuff, so all the misdeeds. So everybody will know that God is the only God, and that is the purpose.
After the Churban?
Correct. After the Churban.
What can be worse than that?
No, the Churban is in Yerushalayim, is for the Jewish people. We're talking about the other nations, nothing to do with, with Yerushalayim. And as I mentioned, starting from next week, we're going to come finally starting like the juicy stuff of Sefer Yechezkel. Is going to be other things. So chapter 33 till the end of the book, which is 48, I think, is more interesting stuff. Okay, the battery here might die, so I'm just gonna close that recording here, but we can continue our questions. So if you're on Zoom, I'll see you next week, same time, same place.
Can I ask something, please?